Hello, everyone. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I am so grateful that you are here. Welcome to the Starseed Ministry. It is March 6th. It's March 6th, 2023. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome especially to the people in the chat right now. If you are joining us on the YouTubes in the live chat, it's good to see everyone's presence here. But of course, if you're joining us or watching this on the replay, welcome to you as well, wherever you are, whenever you are. It's good to have you here. So we are in March. We are just on the verge of our full moon in Virgo. If you had not checked out the Virgo full moon forecast, that is already up on whatever platform you're watching this on. That forecast is up, and that's for the Virgo rising, Virgo moon, Virgo sun, any strong Virgo. And honestly, it's worth a watch just to get an in-depth look at all the transits that are going to be coming up in the next 2 weeks. Oh boy, beware the Ides of March. And I don't just say that because it's something that you say every year. And the Ides of March is the 15th of March, and it's when Julius Caesar was assassinated. But truly, beware the Ides of March this time around. Whew, boy. Not only will we have a third quarter moon, but on the 14th, but on the 15th, wow. Just wow. We're going to have a third quarter moon with Mars in a T-square, and a square to Neptune. It is just going to be gnarly. So we're kind of in this nice little window today, and this is probably the most hopeful reading that I've had in a couple of weeks. And not that things haven't been hopeful, and not that I personally, and this is not a dig on anybody, because we go through this cycle, but it's not so much that I've given into the anxiety or the fear necessarily, but it has been very sobering and serious. And if you've been with us, then you've seen the last couple of weeks of readings and how sobering and serious the energy really has been. So not so much of a lift as much as a recognition very recently of our own strength and our own sense of power. I think that that's starting to really shine through, and today's reading is really reflecting that on a number of levels. So we're going to get into that. We'll talk a little bit about space weather. The sun continues to be flaring at high intensity, and we'll just kind of check in with that so that we know what we're looking at, know how it feels in our bodies when we are getting this data, and how it doesn't feel in our bodies when we're getting this data. I think it's going to be very important, and I've stressed this so much that even just having a working knowledge of how this all works, what the data means, what solar weather means, what it encompasses, is going to be really important, so you know if what you are being told is bullshit or not. So we'll go over that briefly. Of course, we'll go over the reading and then go into the astrology for the week. We have a sun sextile Uranus today, so it's been pretty interesting so far. We have a moon in Virgo now. It'll be a full moon on the 7th, which is tomorrow. We have some strong starseed energy, serious starseed energy. We have pretty strong Draco energy too, and I'm going to go into that in the astrology portion of this broadcast. So thank you for being here, guys. I really appreciate you very much. So before we launch into all of this, just to share with you what's going on with Catalyst Energies, we are coming into, I finished day 6 of our 21 days of Reiki healing attunements. So those of you who are participating, we have 31, or including myself, 32 participants in the grid and in the healing attunement event. So this is going to take us up to the equinox. By the way, this is an open enrollment event, so you can join at any time. It's a sliding scale, unless you're part of the monthly membership, and then it's at a discount for you. And I took a break over the weekend. Certainly I did the attunements, as you know, for those who are participating. But today I will be putting out the the information, the tutorial about the grid, the crystals in the grid, giving some information about the properties of the minerals and the crystals in the grid, just so that people can start to take the matters into their own hands, essentially. And there's a lot of really positive energy right now and some really strong breakthrough energy with the Sun sextile Uranus, and even with the full moon in Virgo. As much as it has this explosive energy kind of behind it, ultimately it's meant to be purifying and cathartic, although it could be very destructive. And as we talked about, when you try to put a cap on something, especially Virgo people, right, that tend to really find themselves identified with being able to be very organized, very meticulous, detail-oriented, controlling of their own self. When experiencing some sort of eruptive or cathartic or purifying type of energy, if you keep trying to put a cap on that shit, it's going to blow off regardless, right? You can't cap a volcano necessarily. So, even with that type of energy that's right here at this full moon, there's the moon will be in a trine to Uranus, and so the sun sextile Uranus today is a lot of really positive breakthrough energy that we have at our disposal, and the possibility to really break some old habits that just really need to go. And if there's any time to have full illumination of what is not working for us in terms of relationship, in terms of our relationship to our own process, it is a full moon, especially in Virgo, which is not glamorous at all. It is getting down to the brass tacks of things, where the rubber meets the road, and getting our shit together. That is the 6th house, and the Virgo house is where we literally get our shit together. And that's what you're doing in Virgo. You're taking all of your stuff and you're putting it where it belongs and organizing it. You're literally putting the pieces of your own puzzle together in Virgo. And so sometimes you just have to have an explosive event in order to get all of the things out of, all bunched up, or if they're just like under that back pressure, it's going to blow eventually. So if you're interested in the Reiki healing event, it's 21 days of healing attunements. You set a goal for yourself healing-wise. You receive the attunement every day. You participate in whatever way makes sense. And then I go over the grid that I've made that has everybody encompassed within, and you get a tutorial about crystals and minerals and grids. So that's on my website. You can get more information. So also, too, I want to share with you that the seasonal forecast for the vernal equinox, which, the sun will be in Aries on the 21st, the vernal equinox. This forecast is now open for personal readings. 60-minute is $66. 90-minute is $99. It's a recorded reading. We look at your natal chart, your progressions, if you have starseed markings, anything like that. And this looks at the seasonal forecast from equinox to solstice. So that's a 3-month that's a 3-month forecast to get an idea of the major transits, how they're going to be affecting your chart, the really important moments to keep an eye out for, and how they may be impacting you, or what kind of opportunities they're going to present. So again, you can book right from my website. It's linked in the description box below, and that is open now. So if you want to get a jump on it before the equinox shows up, now's the time to start booking. And of course, if you are a Virgo or Pisces person, you still have access to the lunar transit forecast at the sale rate for $33 for a little 30-minute tune-up, $66 for a 60-minute in-depth reading, looking at the lunar cycle in relation to your chart. Again, your natal chart, your progress chart, if you have relevant starseed markings, that's all open for the Pisces Virgo axis. So Sun, Moon, and Rising invite Virgo and Pisces. This sale rate is available to you. And of course, if you're part of my monthly membership, the Starseed Fellowship, then the sale rate is open to you every month, no matter what your sign is. Okay, my friends. So let's one thing I want to show you is my background here. So let's get some of this stuff out of the way. And I want to show you the background here because there's specifically a reason that I took this screenshot. So this is from my astronomy software that came with my telescope. Stellarium is actually a free astronomy software that you can download. It does take up a lot of space, but if you have a device, and I think you can download it onto a phone as an app as well. So this is a different program because it came with my telescope, but I wanted to show you because Pallas Athena is coming into conjunction with Sirius. And you can see when we talk about conjunctions in Western or tropical astrology, we're specifically talking about longitudinal alignment. But you can see how close they are in terms of their latitude and longitude. They're very close to each other in terms of those two planes. Now, in terms of their distance, that's a different story entirely, right? Sirius is 8 to 9 light years away, and Pallas Athena is an asteroid in our solar system. So, of course, they're not near each other, but they are lined up along two planes of the horizontal and vertical axis, very close to each other. And as you can see here, Sirius is going to be very bright, so bright that when I open the software, it gives you this kind of like daily, like, here, this is what you can look at. It actually talked about Sirius. You have Procyon up here, we have Sirius right here, you can see the belt of Orion right here, we have Betelgeuse here. So in northern hemisphere right now, you get nice views of all of this stuff. And of course, here is the band of the Milky Way. I wanted to show this to you because Pallas Athena in the sign of Cancer is coming into this really close alignment per our field of vision with Sirius. And Pallas Athena is the goddess of wisdom, goddess of strategy in war. And Syrian starseeds, you know what the deal is with you. You are a custodian. You are a guardian of life. This is a very shamanic type of energy and a presence, right? And it can go a number of ways here. You can be the evil shamanic sorcerer, and those exist, or you can take responsibility for this starseed role and this identity and realize that your connection to life is where your real commitment truly is. And that's something that if you don't know, and if you're curious, you can book a starseed reading with me, and we go into your chart and we find all of the designations in your chart, give you the idea of the traits associated with it. But if you are a Syrian starseed, and you are because you've gotten the reading and you have the markings, then this is something that's going to be really relevant to you in terms of strategy and wisdom, in terms of the battle, essentially, right? I mean, the thing is that the winds of the battle are going to be blowing all around, and where are we situated? We are rooted, just like the willow tree, and there's a responsibility that comes along with that, to be a custodian, to be a guardian of life. And so the Syrian starseeds, as you know, these are individuals who tend to have a really strong connection to the spirits of the land, the animals, the plants, the minerals, the elementals, and tend to be very insular, right? And they really size people up energetically. And so Syrian starseeds are becoming very important, and the strategy involved here, I think, is something we should start really taking seriously, if not already. And I'm going to show you in today's reading where that actually is coming out, in terms of that transmission. Okay, so I just wanted to share that with you because that is relevant to right now. And I was like, I wonder how close they actually are. Well, turns out they're going to be really close to each other as Pallas Athena passes over top of Sirius in terms of our line of sight. So, and of course, you can go outside if it's clear, and you're going to get a nice view of Sirius, Procyon, the Pleiades up in this corner, and the belt of Orion. In fact, there is a line of sight from Sirius all the way up to the Pleiades normally. So that is that. So I'll bring this back down here for now. Yes. I don't want to be too distracting here with all of this stuff. All right, so the other things I want to show you, and I'm going to check in with the stream real quick. I want to make sure that it's, there we go. It looks like it's excellent condition, it says. Well, thank you, YouTube. I appreciate that. So, let's see here. Sorry, guys. I just want it to be... That's what I'm talking about. Okay, so I want to just share a little bit of the space weather with you, and of course also share with you the Schumann, because it is pretty mellow right now. So I'm going to bring it up right here. Okay, so the 4th, it's been amplifying, coming into the weekend. It was amplifying a couple of days, and now look at it again. It's really back to baseline. And even though we're getting flares still, and we were in a coronal hole stream, I'm going to show you the KP index, right? The measurement of the geomagnetic storm conditions. They are still elevated, but the Schumann, it gets really loud, and then it just kind of goes offline for a while, even though there's still solar weather. And we're still working with that. We're like, what is that? Why is that, right? Because you can see that we'll get these massive elevations right before we get some type of solar disturbance, and then it just goes back to baseline. Okay, so right now it's really quiet. It's not loud at all. You can see that it's very minimal rippling in the electromagnetic field in terms of its amplification. So let's see what I can show you here. So this is a solar flare that we had late last night, early this morning. I'm going to show you the graph of all of the flaring that's been happening. So it's on a sunspot that's turning out of view from Earth, but you can see that there's a bit of the halo of the CME that's probably going to come and hit us. So that's something to be aware of as well. It's this one right here that blew off in that I think it was an M5. We'll look at it for sure, an M5. But you can see that this sunspot here and this one, but this one in particular, is very concerning, and it is turning to face us within the next day or so. So if it does flare, I mean, again, we're going to have the possibility of a Earth-directed CME that could be from like a really high-class flare, like M up to X, and that is a massive stream of plasma that comes and hits us. And as we've been talking about, the solar wind is penetrating deeper into our atmosphere, right? It's getting deeper. It's going to southern latitudes more often, right? And that means that there's more electromagnetic disturbance because of the plasma coming deep into our atmosphere. So there's a possibility here. Absolutely. Doesn't mean it will, and it doesn't mean that a flare will send off a CME. If it's very impulsive, it won't eject anything. It'll just flare, and that does have its impact as well in terms of radio blackouts and things like that, which is what happened with this flare that just happened. There was a radio blackout. So I want to show you some other of the data real quick before we move on to the reading, okay? So this is the KP index, so you can see that it was elevated and elevated and elevated, and it still is elevated, but it's starting to come down. So you saw that it was about the second, the third, and the fourth where the Schumann kept amplifying. So it seemed like there was a connection to getting this solar wind. And we were in a coronal hole stream, right? So there's a solar wind that is making its way very quickly to us when a coronal hole is facing us. So that also, every time there's an amplification, just like when you laugh, for instance, or have, any type of experience of joy that is emoted in some way. So laughter, and that's one of the best ones, right? Is laughter, right? It comes from your heart center. And we just talked about this actually in our private Telegram group for the Starseed Fellowship, because we were talking about Monsters Inc. and how they extracted a fluid, right? And it was either from fear or from laughter. Well, laughter is coming right from the heart chakra, right? And so when you laugh, it creates quite literally a frequency that then boosts your field. It bolsters your biofield or your aura when it comes from here. So experiences of joy and real pleasure, right? Coming from laughter are going to not only boost your heart chakra, but that then boosts the field around you. So in some ways, the Schumann, it could be that when the heart of the earth has the same kind of expulsion through some type of experience, or in shock, or in grief or sorrow, right? Our crying, for instance, can be expressed through our heart, and that's not negative in itself. We know that tears are and crying is incredibly cleansing as well. So that can come forward as well. So maybe there is this amplification from the heart of the planet that then has an impact on making a stronger field around the whole planet. So when we get this solar weather, we have a stronger boost, and we can have a relationship with that. And in fact, we probably want to have a relationship with that. And again, this is where the Syrian starseeds step in, right? Because this is they are connected to the heart of the planet, probably more so than just about any other starseed. So it's very interesting that, we see this elevation in the solar wind, and we also, and the geomagnetic storm conditions, and we're also seeing the amplification of the Schumann. Now, it doesn't mean that the Schumann isn't hijacked artificially. That is happening as well. And I think that the situation where people are experiencing that the most is probably the ear ringing, right? Is when you have those where they call it tinnitus, right? But you're having those tones that are coming in. That's probably, I'm guessing at this point, there's connection here with the hijacking of the Schumann. So I got to be very careful about what I say here on YouTube. So, but the storm conditions seem to be mellowing out for now. Right? We have no idea what's going to be happening here in the coming days. So just be aware, right? Just be aware and be vigilant, guys. It's important that we are vigilant with our energy. Like we can't necessarily just let it go at this point. So the other thing I wanted to share just real quick so you understand the data here, for those of you who are paying attention, is that when you get up, these are the class of flares, and you can see there was an X class flare, again, on the 4th, where we had that last amplification of the Schumann. And so, but there have been high M class flares. It's kind of hard to see here, but you can go to spaceweather.com and get this information too. And we've had some M-class flares in the last day or so, but the Schumann hasn't been amplified in response. So perhaps we have a field that is more bolstered now and is able to handle the influence of the energy that's coming off. And so often when we have high energy flares, there will be blackouts in the ionosphere, which is the radio frequencies. So that's the space weather data I just wanted to share. I want to make sure that I got it all. Yes. Okay. I think I got it all. So we're going to look first at last week's reading, because there's oops, that's not it. There are a couple players that are coming back. So, and this is where we had our sobering realization, our 3 of Swords, right? Also, too, the Queen of Forces reversed. If you remember the thumbnail for today's video, and that photograph is Venus and Jupiter, like somebody taking a picture as if they are balancing the two bodies of Venus and Jupiter. But it looks very similar, doesn't it, to the Queen of Forces? This again kind of indicates to me that collectively we have started to really take responsibility for our balance and our own energetic balance as well, because we've had to kind of be brought to the realization that it's been hijacked, and we need to step up and take more responsibility for it. And I do feel like that there is this sense of like, you know what, this is my field, right? This is my birthright. This is my God-given biofield around me, and nobody deserves to have access to this, right? Nobody deserves to snatch my body for their own means, whatever it is, right? And so I get this sense that people are starting to be like, you know what? No. I'm ready to step into taking responsibility. I'm going to be a custodian for the life force that has been endowed upon me by whatever creative force you identify with. But that means we have to take responsibility for it. And I do feel like that is starting to come online. Now, the panda is the thing that I want to bring attention to from last week, creating a sacred space, because it's in the same place as it was last week. So let's look at that. Let's start unpacking this reading, okay? And let us know, in the chat, or let us know in the comments if you feel so called to do so, right? How you're feeling. Are you feeling a sense of renewed responsibility and also integrity, right? That you have to take responsibility for this. Nobody's going to step in and do it for you. There's no knight in shining armor that isn't something that we are bringing forward ourselves, right? Or there's no, when we look at the reading, we'll see that maybe perhaps what we had considered to be that is actually turning out to be a rotten thing. So, sorry guys, let me just find, there it is. Let me find today's reading so that we can, see it here. So we have, this is pretty good, right? We have the Three of Wands, which is virtue. We have the Three of Discs, which is the works. These are great cards to get. And then we have Prudence, which is the Eight of Discs, and the One of Keys. So there's a lot of earth energy. And if you remember from last week's reading, where did it end? The Princess of Discs. That was like the very end of the entire tarot, which is the Venus in the earth signs. And Venus does rule an earth sign, at least one of the signs she rules is an earth sign. And so there was this sense of kind of planting the seed in the ground, or at the very least, putting the anchor into the earth, right? And to tap into that crystalline structure. Well, the Three of Discs really shows that there is a crystallization that has started to come forward, and that there is evidence of progress. We're certainly not done by any stretch, but the Eight of Discs and the One of Keys, they add up to 9. So you have this 3 and this 3 and this 9. There's a lot of really potent energy associated with this reading today that is very balanced, that has a lot of it has all of this 3-6-9 energy, right? It has all of this trifecta energy of manifestation, if you want to call it that. So here's our panda. So, and this card is the crown chakra. Okay, we're going to talk about this a little bit in depth, and we're going to talk about where our guidance comes from as well, because I think we need to start being very realistic about the differences between what is a distraction and what is really just not a helpful presence in especially our dream state. So I'm going to go into that a little bit and where I'm getting that, but also too, what is helpful? How does our guidance actually speak to us, and how are we being distracted by things that look like our guidance, but really are just something else that is being downloaded into our experience? And the panda coming up twice now in terms of these upper chakras is really driving the point home that this needs to be a sacred space. Otherwise, you're just whatever wants to download in, and certainly whatever wants to upload you right out. And then we get into that body snatcher thing again. So, and I've been there. I have in real time experience what it feels like in my body to start having my essence pulled out of me without my consent. And it is really scary. And I'm really grateful that I knew what to do in that moment to keep it from happening. So it's very real. And this is what this whole concept of the NPC that gets put out there. And I'm not a big fan of it because I think that it is a skewed perspective. But one thing that I listened to this morning that it was just like, oh yeah, it's not so much being an NPC, and you don't know what that is, non-playable character. They're definitely playable, right? It's being body snatched right out of your own body, and something else comes in. Now, in religious context, that could certainly be considered a possession, but I think we need to stop thinking about this so metaphysically and start thinking about it quite physically and quite technologically as well, so that we can get a handle on what is actually happening out there. But the Pueo is about the signs and the guidance that is being offered to us, and understanding what the language actually is, right? And you see the King of Roses is not quite upright. It's not quite reversed either, but we have the spoiled egg, right? And the difference between, what is actually our guidance, and are we truly balanced? I think we're almost there, but we're not quite there. So a couple things. Number one, what if I told you, this is just a thought exercise, YouTube. This is just a thought exercise, just a consideration. Let's just play with our imaginations here. What if I told you that there are computers in 4D, right? That there's computers in 4D. Now, what does that mean when you go to sleep and you have your astral body in dream time, right? What does that mean? What if there are computers in 4D? How do you know that you're just not getting uploaded into that 4D computer when you go to sleep? Well, there are a couple ways that we can kind of start unpacking this. So, and I'm going to start kind of weaving this into the reading itself. But one of the things that was offered, and Stephanie, whoever gave you this information about how to, and other people as well, but specifically whoever gave you the insight was right on about how your actual guidance communicates with you, because they're not going to talk to you. They're not going to use verbal language, because that's what we use in our third dimension here, right? In 3D, we talk to each other. But your guidance is going to talk to you through telepathy, gestures, symbols, and a lot of times just feeling, right? Like actual intuition and gut feeling. Okay. And there are probably lots of examples that we can start to think about where we have truly been, shuffled out of the way of danger, or have been given true insight and guidance that was not somebody speaking through our heads, okay, or speaking to us verbally in our dreams. So again, learning the difference is really important. So first, though, we have to be able to rest without the intrusion of the signaling directly. So putting the quartz under your pillow, making sure that it's clean and it's been cleansed and it's been charged, and then you put it under your pillow. That's giving you at least the capacity to rest and have restful sleep and to clarify what's going on. Now, that's not going to take away all of these experiences. In fact, it's going to make them that much more obvious to us. But who's talking to you in your dreams? Like, how are they talking to you? What are they trying to get you to pay attention to? And who's not talking to you, but is very much a presence and offering you a symbol, a gesture? Maybe you just have a feeling when you're experiencing that being or that individual. Maybe they mean something to you in your personal life that nobody else is really going to know, but you know what it means, right? That's important as well to consider, because we are getting guidance, but we have to be able to shuffle through what is actually true guidance and what is, getting pulled into that 4D computer, right? And being influenced in that way. So that's something that's really important. And that's something that we've been talking about quite directly in the Starseed Fellowship, like the private Telegram group. And I just shared this this audio transcript of Rudolf Steiner talking about, I had no idea it was going to go here. It was just like, what does it mean to have our guardian, interact with our guardian angel? And he said the exact same thing, that we've been talking about, and that Stephanie brought up days before to the group, which is that they're not going to speak to you in verbal language. And this is something that if that's what you're used to, and maybe your mind is interpreting it this way, that does happen. But if you're like physically, I've started to notice it a lot, that in my dream state, when there are words spoken, when there is just, it's just like chatter, right? That's not really guidance, and sometimes it looks like it. So I had an experience just recently where a friend of mine who passed away many years ago showed up, and he's just like talking and talking and talking, and I was just like, that's not you, right? This is just a memory being extracted that is being utilized to try to like gain my trust or get me to listen, or just be like, oh, there's so and so, they must be coming to see me or have this interaction with me. But he's just going on and on and on, and I'm just like, no, that's not how it works. But you have to give yourself the opportunity to, at the very least, have some restful sleep and some clarity in your dream time, okay? And that's why the quartz crystal has been really helpful. Now, Mercury's in Pisces, so the fog of war is so much thicker, especially with the sun also in Pisces, and we're about to have a full moon. So whatever comes out with this full moon as explosive and incredibly, you might get burned in some ways a little bit. Just know that what was an impulse that started with the new moon in Pisces is now something clarified. And we have a responsibility to take that objective view and actually put it into practice. So whatever ways that you can find to clarify these spaces for you, I think is going to be really important. Okay, so let's start with the very beginning of this reading, which is the Three of Wands. Now, virtue has a word that is loaded and has been misused so much, right? So I want you to think about virtue in terms of the highest standards of behavior, right? Your integrity, but also learning to have confidence and strength in your character to live out those standards. It's not just about having high standards, but to live them out, to have the confidence and strength to live them out, right? You have to stay committed to a path and be prepared to kind of be stretched beyond your comfort zone, okay? This also has to do with the will to begin something, your creativity, striving towards a goal. These are all things that I think we can start really understanding for ourselves right now. Accomplishment, confidence, integrity, honesty. These are all the positive aspects of the word virtue, and it is represented by the sun in Aries. We're about to have the sun in Aries very, very soon. So a mantra for this card as our causal factor coming into the moment is I live out my beliefs in what? In all of my actions. It's not enough to just, think happy thoughts. You have got to live it every single moment of the day. And so, that there are temptations constantly to pull us out of this. And the more that we are able to live within our integrity and have strength and confidence in ourselves, the more we're going to get pulled into alignment with our own integrity and our own character. And Pallas Athena being in conjunction with Sirius and being in the sign of Cancer. Cancer in the 4th house is where our character is really developed, okay? So that's the other thing, is that this has got to be a strategy that we're willing to embrace right now, because it's going to continue to get more and more difficult. Just because this is a positive reading, which I do feel like it is, it does suggest we need some patience and to have faith. And faith isn't blind belief. Anybody tells you that doesn't understand it. Faith is a power that is generated off of cooperation, communion, relationship. It's not something that you blindly believe in. You can have blind faith, and that turns into dogma. But faith that comes from experience is a power that is generated that is more than just, it's more than the sum of its parts, right? And that faith is it's like a tether. As you stare into the abyss, it keeps you from sinking into it, right? It pulls you out. That is your faith. And that is a power that is generated. So, but we're going to have some serious patience, right? The eight of discs is prudence and patience to know when to act, right? So we're getting at the heart of it, this 3 of discs, actually. Let's move on to that. Now, Mars in Capricorn, it's exalted, right? It's not in its rulership, but it's in the next best territory. Mars loves to be in Capricorn because it's getting shit done. Something that is actually substantial and using our personal energy of desire and potency and willpower to substantiate something. So the 3 of discs is a crystallization of the physical powers, right? The minerals. And you can even see that all around. You have the mercury and salt and sulfur as these wheels that are kind of pushing this pyramid up in some ways. You can even see that there is this sense of ripple effect right underneath, because these wheels are like spinning in some ways and kind of pushing it away. It also kind of looks a little bit like liquid mercury, which I think is interesting, considering Mercury is the symbol that's represented at the very top here. So This is a first taste of victory. So this is in the heart, right? And so maybe this first taste of victory has been because we've initiated a process of real physical labor that is showing results now. But it's just the beginning. Right? Further work is needed. And that's what this represents, the Three of Discs. So it's about concentrating our energies and directing them very skillfully at a single point. So we need to create a stream of force to which most things surrender. And I mean, the stream of force is so strong that it's literally pushing, pushing what is otherwise a metal, which is mercury, pushing it away. But it does represent manifestation, understanding, and progress. So a good mantra for this card is, my will flows in a perfect stream of force, right? And so what is that perfect stream of force? Maybe that is coming from the heart. And I would say it is coming from the heart based on where this is situated, coming from the heart, creating that toroidal field around you, just like the heart of the earth, creating that field around it that is able to buffer or is able to skillfully manage what comes in and what is kept out, right? You don't want to keep everything out and close off your heart, because then it just turns to stone. But you got to know the difference here. And there is an indication we've made some progress. I mean, this is where I'm getting the most kind of like, okay, it's going to be okay. There is this awareness now that we can be the agents of our own power. Okay, so, and like I said, Mars and Capricorn. Now, keep in mind that Mars, when it exits its shadow, which is roughly about 27 degrees of Gemini, which is not long from now. It's at 22 Gemini right now. When it exits shadow, it's going to come into Cancer right after. It's at its fall position in Cancer. Okay, that means it's in an opposite of its exaltation, which is Capricorn. So it's going to be difficult. We're going to want to keep this in mind to keep ourselves balanced, because when Mars is in Cancer, I mean, yes, it's a cardinal sign, right? So it has something to do with momentum, but Mars wants to initiate outward, right? And so Capricorn is great for that, because there's this expansion and unfolding along the matrix of reality that Capricorn represents. It's releasing your power into the full picture here. So Mars in Cancer, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. We're going to have to see that this process is meant to be kind of internalized and pulled in and consolidate our power of real inner strength. And that comes with character, right? That comes with our willpower, right? Again, we're going back to all these Syrian starseed things, and the fact that Pallas Athena, the goddess of wisdom and strategy and war, whereas Mars is the god of war, is now in conjunction with Sirius. So there's this sense of inner strategy about our character and our integrity and consolidating our real power, right? If we want to be able to release this power into something crystallized and fully form it, we're going to have to get back into our root system, which, when you're talking about Virgo energy, it is the roots that are doing all the work when the plant is feeding the fruit, right? As the fruit matures and ripens, it is the root system that is doing all of the work under the surface, okay? So, but still, we have a causal factor of this real integrity and this virtue and this creativity that's just like, oh, okay, I know, and I have the confidence and strength to act on and identify with this impulse to be. If you see yourself as the seed of divinity or sacredness, then who can stop you, right? But you have to see yourself as that. And so this is where all of the stuff around our energetic axis is really important. So the King of Roses came out in this position of horizontal. So it's not upright, but it's not reversed either. So it says, to me, we're kind of like, on the fence about some things. We haven't quite figured out that, there may be relationship in these lower areas, our subconscious and our root and sacral chakra, that has been disrupted. Now, when we have these court cards, they often represent actual people. So this might be someone in your life, right? This could be you in terms of where your energy is being drawn from in terms of your own heart. So disruption in relationship, this is when it's reversed, overwhelming disruption that can really pull you off your center. But there's a potential for a new beginning here, and this does signal that a pattern of self-negation really needs to end. So you have the power to claim your own heart. This is something we've already been talking about. So I feel like that we're not quite upright yet, but we're getting there. And that's because I think there's still some we're still being misled. We're still not listening to the true guidance. And this has a lot to do with the Raven's Eye Oracle. I'm going to just show it to you right now. The spoiled egg. Whatever this is at the root of things, whether it's an actual person in our lives, if that's an aspect of ourselves that is not balanced, that we are not acting on our own best interests in terms of our heart, whatever it is past its prime and it is rotten. And sometimes this is like a handler. Right? This is like a handler, and it's time to recognize that maybe that's what it is. And that's really difficult to come to terms with when you're just like, but wait a minute, this is my spouse. Wait a minute, this is my, this is someone that I've trusted, or this is someone that has been this person, a husband, a father. And this could be literal, okay? This is a general read, but this also could be that part of ourselves that has been the masculine heart or has been that masculine energy. It is past its prime. And I would say, go so far as to say, there may be guidance here that we have misconstrued as helpful that is not. Right? It's just talking and talking and talking. And you have to understand that if it's talking and talking and talking, this is not helpful. This is not your guardian angel, right? This is something else that is pulling you off of your center. Now we're almost there. That's the horizontal position here really leads me to believe that we're like on the fence. And it's hard. It's hard to let go of this stuff, especially if it's a relationship that has been present in your life for so long, and you have become kind of codependent on it. But it's past its time. It's a spoiled egg, and if you can't smell it by now, I'm sure you're gonna start smelling it soon, especially after you listen to this, right? And then you have pueo, right? This is a Hawaiian owl. And what is an owl? It is a nocturnal animal. It sees in the dark, and it's a predator, okay? Your ancestral spirit guides are offering you guidance, so pay close attention to the signs and omens. You can't hear them or even pay attention to them when you have the other thing, other person, other being, right? Whatever it is, just in talk. And this could be something as simple, and I'm not saying this is simple, but if you want to simplify it, this is frequencies just coming into your bedroom at night while you are sleeping. This is why your crystal arsenal needs to be on fleek here, right? The quartz will help move that stuff away from you, and it will clarify things and give you restful sleep. Anybody that has tried it has given me the feedback either directly or in our group that it is working, right? But you have to cleanse that crystal. And my crystal arsenal by my bed has increased considerably now that Mercury is in Pisces, because the mind and the cognition and our very nervous system is in the flow of it now. There are no boundaries here. So you have to take even more responsibility for this and take that astral and energetic hygiene very seriously. But this is saying to me that I think we're at the cusp here of realizing, like, okay, maybe this isn't actually working for me, or maybe this person in my life is been sucking the energy out of me through fear, right? Or in a sense of like making me doubt myself. Maybe you're being gaslit in your own dream state, and that can happen, right? But it's past its prime. And if you want to be able to listen to this real guidance here and cut through the bullshit, you're going to have to acknowledge what is past its prime and is what's a rotten, spoiled egg, okay? So when we get up here, now this is interesting. So the One of Keys, this is the architect. The keys, of course, are the physical nuts and bolts, just like the discs, just like the pentacles, just like the coins, okay? The one of keys. Now, again, you have these two energies of masculine and feminine, just like the King of Roses does in some ways represent the balance of masculine and feminine, because the roses is this feminine energy, the heart, and specifically the emotions. So this is a balance of those things as well. So with the architect, it's still here, but it's very distinctly delineated into these two aspects. So the architect's pointing off into what they are designing and having built. The woman, if you really want to get into, and you can find this is the Akashic Tarot. Just type in Akashic Tarot, one of keys, image search, and you'll find it, and you can look at it really closely. She is not a smile on her face, right? She is very flat affect because she is taking it seriously what he's looking at. He's a little bit more like, hey, look at this. Now, who is the architect coming into your conscious awareness here? Is it you? Is it, who is the source player, right? Are you being driven around by something else that's pointing off like, look at what we're building? Or do you have the capacity here to really discern and to look at it seriously and be like, is this actually what, is this going to work, right? So now the architect quite, simply is about stepping into a position of power, recognizing your talents and strengths and your authority to take charge. And again, an opportunity that beckons you, that utilizes your skill perfectly. And we all have our own skills, right? But they are your skills. They are the skills that are endowed to you by your creator, whatever that is to you, right? Not something that is coming in and driving you around. And this is where we have to be really, really discerning about what's coming in. You have this open, let me find it. Sahasrara. Forgive me in my pronunciation of Sanskrit. This is the crown. Now look at it. It's open. It's an open space that allows in. Now when it's upright like this, it talks about receptivity, downloads. I'd be really mindful about this, and transcendence, but it is reversed. This is a really strong indication to me, and I've had to go through this myself, right? What is the sensory overload coming in? What are your limiting beliefs about your own power and your ability to be, an architect of this divine plan, right? Whatever it is. Or listening beyond yourself. This can go a number of ways, right? Are you limiting yourself, and if you cut this off completely, or is it so open and you are not strong in the lower chakras of your body? And one of the things in the Steiner lecture that just blew me away, that I was like, well, of course. He's just like, each of the chakras and each of the organ systems corresponds and astrally, right? And so again, you're getting information through your organ systems, through your meridians, energetically, right? You don't have to get it through like an actual transcript that you hear verbally in your head, which is why you have to be really mindful about people who channel, because if that's where it's coming from, then And if you are getting that, like maybe you need to take a step back and be like, is this actually guidance from a benevolent source, or is something just downloading into me because my crown is just wide open without any other grounding, okay? And the panda, I mean, again, sacred space. Create a sacred space. This has to be only open to divine. Are you going to come up? No. Divine intervention or divine connection, right? So make a sacred space. Make it a priority, right? I mean, not in terms of I'm too busy. I got all this stuff to do. I have the kids. I have my job. Listen, if you don't make this a priority, then you will be body snatched, and you probably already are. We all are on some level. This is not a judgment. We all are on some level. This is why we have to start really taking responsibility for this. Perhaps you make your crown a sacred space rather than leaving open to whoever wants to download information to you. And this goes well beyond cell phone towers, my friends. I mean, we are far past this. Okay, this is why this is so important. So for those of you who are doing the Reiki attunements and are part of the grid, this is helping that. This is amplifying that. This is a template that is being reinforced every day that I do the attunement and to the grid that is helping this. So again, if you're still interested, it's open enrollment. You'll still get the benefits even if you didn't start at the beginning. We still have 2 more weeks. We just did day 6 out of 21. So it's something to consider as well. But this was a pretty strong indication to me about the sacred space. This has to be sacred, right? You can't just let anything come into this space. And of course it's going to look like, your dead friend that passed away. You're going to be like, oh, right? This is why Steiner is like, mediumship is like the lowest form. And in no way is this a judgment about anybody who has mediumship qualities. I have it. It's really strong in my family. I know other people who are really good mediums, and they do great work with people. But you have to be discerning about what that is, and you just, leaving yourself open to whatever wants to walk in, can be really problematic. But I do see where we're going to have some real patience here. Prudence, the 8 of discs, the sun in Virgo. Now, the sun is in Pisces right now, the opposite of Virgo. So be careful. Take your time. Consider all the facts and wait patiently for your chance to act rather than pushing it, right? That 3 of discs, right? We have some indication of success right now, and it's really easy to kind of charge forward with that, or to just consider the whole thing is done. No, we just came to a moment of one moment of materialization. Consider all the facts. Work hard to improve your skills and become a master. You have to be patient with yourself. It's not going to happen tomorrow. You have to actually do the Virgo thing, which is one step at a time, one piece at a time, 1 foot in front of the other, and you have to be disciplined, right? And you can't rely on your ego motivation to discipline you. You got to get up every day and do that thing, right? Sit in meditation, have your prayer, do your whatever it is, your energy work. But if you do these things and you're thoughtful about it and you trust and you have actual faith in yourself and in your connection to your divine creator, whatever that is for you, you will get there. But we have to be patient. And this really suggests to me that we have to have the long game in mind, right? And be in it for the long haul. So be thoughtful about how you expend your energy. Make sure you're using it for creative purposes, because if you're just wasting it, it will be destructive. And that is the full moon in a nutshell, right? If we are using this energy for creative purposes, this catharsis is going to be really powerful. And yeah, it may be like, whoa, overwhelming, but it also will be cathartic and purifying. But if we are not using it for true creativity, it will find its outlet through destruction. And, people are going to it's going to be different for everyone, right? So, and it's in terms of being a starseed, the one thing that I just want to say about this is that, like, just being a starseed is not an indication of anything other than you've been bagged, you've been tagged, and you've been sold to the butcher. Okay? We just need to be real about this. Okay? If you are a starseed and you identify as a starseed, you are even more susceptible. Okay? And so you have more of a responsibility to all of this, right? Because starseeds are watched, they're in a lot of cases hunted, right? And certainly bagged and tagged, right? And sold off. So be aware of that as well. And if you're not sure if you're starseed and you want to know, then you can book a reading with me and we'll talk about it and all the things that go along with that. So it's not enough to be like, oh, I'm a starseed and everything's great. No, That's not what that is. There is a responsibility here to take care of the energy that goes along with that, because it is very valuable. And you've probably, if you're not even sure, believe me, someone else knows, and they've been watching. They've been watching. But I'd say the takeaway here is to be thoughtful and patient, and have the long game in mind here, and you have to be consistent about it. And that's what the Eight of Discs is, the prudence, right? Being patient, knowing that the fruit is ripening, right? And it's all happening under the surface, right? The root system is what is doing the work at this time of year. So we have to be aware of that. So let's look at the charts for today and for this week, and then we can call it good for today's Starseed ministry and our broadcast. Thank you guys for being here. So let's just say, okay, I'm looking at some comment here. Mama Wolf Memory says, let's just say I've known this time would come, and I feel I personally put it off till I really can't be put off anymore, or maybe the timing is perfect. I would personally say to you that both things are true. And there's only one sense of timing, which is God's timing, divine timing. So it can't be anything other than it is, right? But the thing about having a subjective sense of time is that you as an individual can go, and kind of take an inventory and be like, I see all of the ways that I have put this off. And that's what redemption is, right? You're like, I've been doing this. I'm not going to do this anymore. Boom. That's it. It doesn't have to be as dramatic as, certain religious contexts like to make it to be in terms of redemption, right? Or, redemption from your sin, quote unquote. It's just realizing that you've been living out of alignment to your divine blueprint for whatever reason, acknowledging the reasons, forgiving yourself because you know that you've already been forgiven, and start moving on. It's when you know this and you ignore it that you are continuing to perpetuate this, right? And so it's all in divine timing. That's the whole point. But our free will is where we decide, okay, well, I've seen this now, but I don't have the courage, integrity, or I live in fear too much. And you continue to rehash or to live, quote unquote, live in that sin, whatever that means to you, right? So you don't get too hard on yourself, right? You don't know what you don't know, right? And so as soon as you do know it and the light bulb goes off, you're like, I know now. And so then you move forward, and it's okay, right? And we all have our gifts, right? We all have our gifts. And there are diversity of gifts, right? But it all comes from the same place. So it's okay, discover what those things are. What is your creative gift? Some people are healers. Some people are intuitive. Some people are artists, right? Some people are caretakers. Some people are empaths, right? Whatever your creative energy is, it's unique to you. It's part of your unique blueprint. This is what astrology is really good for, is to help you kind of make sense of that. And there's diversity of gifts, but it's all coming from the same place, okay? Now, let's look at the astrology here real quick. And of course, if you're part of the Starseed Fellowship Plus, then you will be getting your weekly astrology in depth this week. But it's always good to kind of just take a moment here to see what is going on and what to expect for the week. Like I said, beware the Ides of March, my friends. Boy, oh boy. So here's the 6th. Now, you see some lines here, right? So number 1, here's our moon opposite Mercury. This is big Draco energy, okay? And I'll go into that in detail. Sun in a sextile to Uranus. This is something that was exact this morning. And this has a lot to do with, these breakthrough moments, and specifically these breakthrough moments when we are identified with the true source of our inspiration. Now, Pisces is like the muse, right? It's our imagination, it's our fantasy, it's where we tap into that artistic realm that's really us channeling. I hate to say that, but you know what I mean. We are inspired by the muse, and then we become the instrument for the creative process. We are not creating so much as being an instrument for the process, okay? So the sun at 16 degrees of Pisces is about finding that quiet space, right? And relying on our inner source of inspiration or guidance, right? And having faith in our own subjective strength. And our part of the creative process is really emphasized. And of course, when we're talking about the sun, this is kind of the archetypal expression of who we are. So when we're kind of identified with whatever the muse is for us, this is where we're going to tap into that inspiration or guidance, right? But again, if this is not a sacred space here, then we are just subject to whatever downloads are coming in. Right? And this is why it's so important that you have a practice, whatever that practice is, and you learn the language of your own guardian angels, your guides, your ancestral spirits, and what is just chatter in that fourth dimensional computer, right? Because I assure you, it's there. And one thing I've noticed, and if I said this already, I apologize, but it's really important, is that it became more obvious when I started using the quartz under my pillow, right? I'm getting restful sleep. I'm not waking up like sweating because I'm being bombarded with, electronic frequencies outside of myself. But what it didn't take away those experiences. It just made them more clear, right? Which is something we could use, right? So then we can tell the difference. So this space has to be a channel for one source and one source only, right? Which is our, connection to a divine creative source, whatever that is. And I'm not going to define that for you. It doesn't matter what your religion or your spiritual beliefs are. That's not what it's about. It's about the fact that as a human, you are directly connected to this creative source, and nobody deserves and nobody has the right to influence you. It doesn't matter what they think their means to an end really is. And that is happening, right? People who think that they know better, or implanting things or piloting you around or whatever. So the moon opposite Pisces, or the moon opposite Mercury. Now, this can be... This is where our thinking can be very scrambled and polarized, okay? When you have the moon opposite Mercury. It can really be hard to make sense of everyday problems, especially with a Mercury in Pisces. But this opposition with the moon conjunct Alpha Draconis and Mercury opposite Alpha Draconis, yes, you're going to have this kind of dialectic between perfection of self and form and our relationship to divine source or creative source that is, our highest good here. Yes, what that means in our minds and how we're feeling into that's where the polarization is. And it can be very hard to find balance in a moment like this. So again, spending quiet time and reflection can help us understand our feelings better. This is a great day to do this, especially because we are about to hit this full moon that is going to be like a huge illumination about these things. So this is the main transit for today that I think is really strong. Then you also see as well that the moon is in an aspect to her own lunar axis, or her own nodal axis, and again, there's just this sense of being able to objectively kind of feel the life force moving through us and our internal landscape that is really supporting, the trajectory of the soul right now for all of us, which is to bridge the gap, right? To 5 to 6 degrees Taurus is the bridge across a deep gorge, right? We have to conquer our obstacles by actually working together and creating a structure that bridges the gap. And that means that we have to have a handle on this life force energy in a way that is objective, but also very tapped in physically. So you have to be able to literally feel the energy in your body and the difference between what's yours, what is healthy, and what is not, and not let it spin you out either. That's an important thing to remember as well, or to kind of carry you away. It's like being on that spinning death trap, in the playgrounds. They don't have them anymore. Some places do, but you know what I'm talking about. And if it spins really fast, right? If you're on the outside, you're holding on for dear life, it could throw you off. But if you are either holding on, or if you were smart enough to get in the middle, then you're not getting thrown around. But there's still something to be said in the thrill of being on the outside of that thing, because that's where, you get the most thrill and excitement. So wherever you are in this, it's necessary with the Virgo energy to have some sort of objective experience and control over this situation. But if you are doing that, it's very connected in a positive way to the trajectory at a soul level right now. And each of us is working with this in our own way. Now, again, of course, with the moon opposite Mercury, it can be very polarized between our thinking and feeling. The good news is that Mercury rules Virgo, and the moon is exalted in Pisces. Right? It wants to be in Pisces. Like, it's identified. Our inner waters are identified with the waters, right? The living waters, right? So there's actually a way that this can be much more balanced than normally another type of moon-Mercury opposition would be. There is almost a mutual reception. Certainly a mutual reception that is, might not be completely, because the moon would be at home in Cancer, but it's close enough that there is an ability for these two things to find the midpoint here. Now, we do see that Lilith is in a T-square to the nodes today as well. And so, of course, we always want to find the ghost point, which would be 5 to 6 degrees of Aquarius. And that's about finding the transpersonal responsibility. It's very easy to get caught up in our social value system and identifying with your political sphere, or your gender, or your whatever those social values are, your age, it doesn't matter. I'm a millennial, I'm a boomer, whatever. It doesn't matter. And of course, with Lilith, when we feel cut off or castrated or frustrated, and we don't want to have that space, that void within us, we will try to fill it. So be mindful of that people are going to do that are completely unconscious to this. And so the best way to make use of a T-square is focusing on the ghost point, which at 5 to 6 degrees Aquarius is that transpersonal responsibility. We're all just kind of wearing a mask in this meat suit and taking responsibility for it in order to kind of release a collective power here. And again, it goes along with where the soul is pulling us at this point here, is to bridge this gap quite physically and energetically as well, resource-wise, right? We need to not just leave people on the other side here. Now, we can't take responsibility for saving people. It's not about a savior complex. It's like we got to work together, right? And everybody is in a different place, but we all have something to add. Just like I said, the gifts vary, but they come from one place, right? And in this case, it's a soul that is in a direction of, we're going to build this bridge, right? We're going to bridge this gap and leave no one behind if we can possibly help it. Okay. Now, like I said, we're going to have our full moon tomorrow in Virgo. Okay. Talked endlessly about that. Wednesday, the moon's going to move into Libra. That means it's going to be opposite this huge stellium, because it's not just Jupiter, Chiron, and Venus in Aries, but we also have Vesta and Juno in Aries. So the moon, little old moon, and little old Ceres are the only things in Libra later in the week that are going to be opposite all of this Aries energy. So that's going to be, a good time to really tap into, it's going to be difficult, right? Because all this airy energy is like, the impulse, the virtue, right? the impulse to be, that penetrating, action-oriented, energy of the ram, And Libra over here is like, remember that it's all for the harvest. It's all for the perfect form, right? And so as the moon moves through Libra Wednesday into Thursday, there will be a trine to Mars eventually during this time. But nothing else is in Aquarius right now either. So, because Saturn will have moved into Pisces at the full moon. So that's something that we're going to talk a little bit more about on the weekly astrology, because looking specifically at Saturn into, how long Saturn's going to be in Pisces, where it's going to end up. It's going to be a couple years, and it's really going to reach its end by conjuncting with Neptune at 0 degrees Aries. So that's something to look forward to. Saturn and Neptune conjunct at 0 degrees Aries. It kind of puts a much more powerful, label in some ways, or feeling on this vernal equinox right now, because that's also 0 degrees Aries. So we'll talk more about that later, and that's going to be for the membership exclusively as I go into that information. But the moon is going to, you can see here that the moon will be in a trine to Mars. It's going to come into conjunction with Arcturus, and then as we come into the weekend, the moon's going to come into Scorpio. It's going to meet the South Node, and we're going to start getting close here to our third quarter moon, that is going to be in Sagittarius. And you can even see now that the Mars Neptune square, it's gonna get pretty interesting. A Mars square Neptune, I'm just going to be real with you guys, is people feel very discouraged. They become very weak, right? Confused, paranoid, all the awesome things. And then with Mars involved, right? The tendency to act on very confused motivations, especially as it is in conjunction with Orion, is very, very strong. So when we get to Monday, we'll be able to get some more clarity on how to address all of these things in the Starseed ministry and the reading that'll come out. So in the meantime, spend the time this week in in particular, the first quarter moon phase, to really take in what is being shown to you in terms of your own inner organization, your energetic hygiene, your commitment, your emotional and spiritual and energetic commitment to purification, to discipline, to reconstituting yourself, because those are all these Virgo themes here, and having patience and knowing when to act, because it's going to be the third quarter moon that is going to really entice people to act maybe on motivations that are very, very confused. Just to show you the chart, actually, of the Ides of March and the third quarter moon and a T-square, right, to Mars. Let's see here. I just want to show it to you. Oh, look at it. There it is, right? There's the T-square with the moon opposite Mars, the moon square, and just coming off and in a square to Neptune as well. So this is going to be a pretty important, very powerful day. So what do you look at with a T-square? You look at the ghost point. Oh, look at that. It's in the last degrees of Virgo, right? What are you doing in terms of your service? What's it all for? Can you maintain a patience and know when to act? Or is this T-square with Mars and Neptune especially, and square with the sun, is it going to initiate you to act? And I would say that, remember Jupiter and Venus coming together with Chiron, that was blessing you if you were able to realize, like, listen, I'm not going to change things overnight. Right? It takes patience. The seed is not going to magically sprout fruit just because you want it to, right? You're going to have the patience to let this process unfold. And again, the only timing is divine timing. And so again, faith in your own strength, faith in the process, the divine process of creation, basically, because there's going to be lots here that is going to bring out a lot of confusion and people acting crazy, okay? And understandably so, right? And feeling very discouraged. So we have some time this week with the full moon phase coming in the disseminating phase with the moon in Virgo and Libra in particular, to really feel into what does it mean to be balanced? What does it mean to be in perfection of our own form? How do we maintain our integrity and our patience for the process unfolding? Because we haven't gotten to the equinox yet. So, and we're going to get there. We're going to get there. So I'm going to check in with the stream real quick and just say goodbye to anybody here. Thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate each and every one of you so very much. Do not forget the things that I am currently offering through Catalyst Energies. You can go to my website. Everything is on the homepage that is current. If you want to book anything, you can pay right through my website. If you want to do or join the Reiki Healing Attunement event, it's such a small contribution for how much we're all getting out of it. So you can get more information and register at the homepage, and then you get the intro email, and then you can make a decision, and then you'll be added to the grid, of course. And yeah, guys, take care of yourself. Take care of each other the best you can. Just know that all of our gifts are diverse, but it all is coming from the same divine source, right? And that's what we can have faith in right now. Let me know if you need anything. I am always here. You can always send me an email if you have questions or concerns. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week for the Starseed Ministry. And I hope you have a really great week, okay? Blessings. I'll see you later. Bye.